Hello everyone, welcome to my tutorial. Today's tutorial I'm going to talk about data persistence. So the data persistence is very important aspect in any kind of web application because we need to retrieve data, we need to update data, and we need to store the data. So this update or store or retrieve the data at a certain time, we are calling that to be the state. Now, the persistence is the term used to persist or store the state of data at a given time. Okay, so at the very moment what we are dealing with the data, we are calling that to be the state, and we need to save the state of the data into the database. So that means the persisting data, we need a backend DB that will store the data. So that is what about the data persistence is. Now let's talk about the JPA. The JPA is a persistence API. We call that the Java Persistence API, and it is an specification and open for implementation and does not perform operation by itself. So it is like a blueprint or architectural document. Okay, so the JPA basically tells what to do, and the implementation will then do how to do it. And then there is some implementation of it, the JPA. So these are the Hibernate, Toplink, iBetis. Each can implement JPA specification for data persistence. And then the JPA is used to bridge the gap between RDBMS and object-oriented programming. It maps Java classes to relational tables in a DB. So that means, let's say that we have an object, and the object is user. Okay, and then we have the attributes of the object as user ID, username, and user address. Okay, and then in the DB we have a user table, and in the user table we have these fields: user ID, user name, and then user address. So now our job, or the JPA job, is to map this, okay, and this and this. So basically what it is doing, it is mapping the object over here with the table in DB. So that is the whole purpose of the JPA. So again, the JPA allows to load and save Java objects and graphs without any DML language at all. The JPQL, which is the query language for the JPA, allows you to express the queries in terms of the Java entities rather than the native SQL tables and columns. The history of JPA, so how or why the JPA came, that is also very important to know. So the Java 1.1 introduced JDBC in 1997. It had few interfaces such as connection and a statement, and we know that the connection is to open the DB connection and the statement is to write SQL statements and so on. So the benefit with these two statements was tremendous, as we could write data access layer and run it on any type of RDBMS. So what was the problem? I mean, what is the problem with the RDBM, with the query? Okay, so it is verbose, writing too many code. Fetching the result set and creating a resulting object is also very verbose. Doesn't address the complex objects that we have in current database. So complex objects means, like, let's say we have a user and under that we have courses. So, or let's say we have a object student and under that we have the object courses. So now how we are going to map all these with the database? So that is something, very complex. Okay, so the JPA actually addressed this issue. So the object relational model framework, the idea was floated to create a mapping between the DB tables to POJO, plain old Java object, to create Hibernate, and popularity of Hibernate brought up idea of standardizing with the JPA or Java Persistence API. So if we look at this again, we can see that we are mapping over here. This is a Java object and this is a DB table, and we are doing the mapping over here. Okay, and this is a very simple one. We can have complex objects, and the complex objects will also be mapped to the DB. Okay, so that is the whole purpose of the mapping thing. And the mapping thing was first introduced by Hibernate, and because Hibernate became so much of popularity, then they came to the idea of standardizing it, and then they came up with the JPA. Okay, so that's all for today's tutorial. Thank you.